my name is Brett Nielsen. I'm the VP of Products and Services at K2 Systems North America. We are celebrating our 10 years in the United States this year, and with me I have Paul Grana from HelioScope. He's the GM of HelioScope / Aurora, and we invited him to come here to talk to us a little bit in our speakers corner, which is just an opportunity for us to talk to some of our partners and discuss some of the new products that they're launching, how we're integrating with them to create a better user experience. So thank you for coming, man. It's welcome. It's good to meet you in person.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
So at K2, we've been doing we've been working on a lot of software integrations with a lot of other software companies. SMA is one, Fronius as well. So we have an API where we can translate and transition our product designs on our platform base. That's a free tool that our customers use to get a ballast design, engineering calculations, their parts list. And an exciting thing that we did this year with HelioScope is obviously the proposal side. So currently we have the ability to create a design, a proposal, a sales proposal, and then import that from HelioScope into our tool so you can get your design and your engineering. So Paul, I'm kind of curious to hear from you. What are some of the new, obviously there's been a lot of changes at HelioScope in the last year or so. What are some of the new things that are coming, and can you just talk a little bit about what's going on at HelioScope?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that don't know HelioScope, I'll start there. So HelioScope is a cloud-based design platform, really focused on C&I solar. So our core customers are EPCs and developers of rooftop solar systems in the commercial segment, and they're using HelioScope primarily as early to mid-stage solar design. So one way to think about us is we're like a cloud-based AutoCAD. And I say that because, first of all, a lot of our focus is on doubling down for that use case. So as you mentioned, there's been some change. So about a year ago, we were acquired by Aurora Solar. And before that, we were trying to make HelioScope a great tool for the whole of the industry, basically. Really like multiple different segments. One nice thing about the acquisition is that it has given us the ability to focus on the segment that we're the strongest in, specifically our C&I customers. So our new focus is on what can we do to make the life of a rooftop C&I developer easily, and I should say rooftop and ground mount, but really it's all about that core C&I use case.
Sure.
And so in terms of stuff that's new, some quality of life changes in the designer. A big one actually that we just announced is a LiDAR data set. So now you can use LiDAR inside HelioScope to figure out what's the height of a roof, what's the pitch of a roof if you're working with a pitched roof. Something like an HVAC unit. How big is that HVAC unit? Like we've had customers spot obstructions on a roof that they didn't even see because a white HVAC might blend in with a white rooftop. Whereas once you pop it up in LiDAR, suddenly you see that big object. And then finally, even if you see it, the ability to understand, is that a 3-foot obstruction or a 6-foot obstruction, very different in terms of how you're going to design around that. And being able to get to that earlier so that you can have a more meaningful conversation with the building owner before you do a roof walk. So it's really all about front-loading information earlier in the process. And if anything, that's maybe a theme here is a big part of what we do and what our customers are able to do is rethink where in the process are they doing the work that they're doing. And then to bring it full scale to how we work together, where we work and how customers want to use HelioScope together with Base from K2, it's all about where you are in the process. So generally speaking, the success that we've seen is HelioScope is great for the quick prelim design. When you want the ability for just a sales rep or a sales engineer to just fire it up, pull up an address, and get either one option or 2 or 3 options. Then run that in front of the actual customer, building owner, off-taker, whatever, get their feedback. Find out, are we within budget? Are we within energy consumption? Are there roof surfaces that we shouldn't touch because there are age issues or some other structural issues? And then factor that in almost in real time. We have a lot of our customers who will use it in front of the customer, in the field, in the office, etc., to say, hey, we came in, this is a 1.2 megawatt system, now it's an 800 kilowatt system, but it's the right fit for your needs, whatever
Sure.
that means.
So my background is actually sales, so I run our product development now, but I spent a lot of time in sales, both as a solar contractor as well as here at K2 Systems. And I know in the past with HelioScope, you had some integrations with like Energy Toolbase as in terms of the front end user experience. So as a salesperson, it's kind of important to me, like what have you guys done to improve the look and the presentation of that proposal at the end of the day? Because the homeowner, or in this case really the building owner, the EPC, whoever it is, they really care that when they present their proposal that it's also accurate, but it also looks really good, looks slick, and is kind of in a format that their customer understands and they can absorb. So what have you guys done in terms of the customer-facing proposal side?
Yeah, great point. So we've been investing a ton in a proposal product. And what's nice about it, so the one way that we think about it is the financial model, because of course to have a proposal, you need a financial model. So the way we think about the sort of North Star is we want the financial model to be as flexible as Excel, and we want the proposal tool to be as flexible as PowerPoint or Word.
Okay.
Because that's honestly what a lot of our customers are using today is
Yeah.
Excel for the financials and proposal or Word for the document. And part of the importance there is we could have shipped earlier with a singular proposal if we had said, this is the proposal. The catch though is that we've got a big slug of market share. Most commercial developers are using HelioScope.
Yeah.
So we spoke with a bunch of them and said, if we were to launch a singular proposal, what would your thoughts be? And they were like, I wouldn't use it because I know that all of my competitors are using HelioScope.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to have a proposal that would run the risk of looking like a cookie cutter version of what my competitors have.
Yeah.
So the ability to customize it to the way you tell the story, right? Long, short. Is it a 2-page proposal or a 20-page proposal? There is no right or wrong answer to that question.
Sure.
But it's important that the teams can share the narrative that they're sharing in person
Yeah.
with a document that matches what their company delivers.
Is there any plans in the future to integrate purchase options, whether it's a PPA, commercial lease, or commercial financing, which I know at the show, there's actually a lot of commercial financing companies here. Are you adding any kind of functionality for the sales rep or the commercial salesperson to offer these different options in the proposal side of the tool?
Yeah, 100%. So right now we've got generic options, and we actually have, we're at the pilot stage with our first partner there. So 1,000%, our goal is to get there and have multiple financing options right in the tool, because as you said, HelioScope is fundamentally, it's used in the middle of a sales process, but it can be a channel, a distribution channel for partners like that. That's what I tell those companies when I talk to them. I say, think of us the way that a hardware manufacturer would think about, CED Green Tech, or I guess now they're Green Tech, or SolarGen, or whoever, right? We're a channel to more customers. Like, could you
Sure.
go direct? Sure you could. But it's going to be better at scale to be able to plug in and just run through. And if anything, I'd mention that on the residential side, Aurora is doing the exact same philosophy. We just announced yesterday that we've got, I believe, 3 that are live or in the process of going live. And that's the exact same philosophy with Aurora.
Cool.
Why not be the place where all the good financial options are there, and it's just a faster, better experience for the salesperson, better experience for the homeowner or business owner.
So as the GM of HelioScope, could you maybe describe for the commercial installer, EPC, developer, maybe even having like an integration with us, the way it works, can you just describe what kind of advantages and what kind of, what benefit that provides to the end user?
Yeah, 1,000%. So the way I would think about it is there's definitely a lot of user requests for this, but they don't define it as an integration. What they define is, I want to be able to go from the initial layout to a really good sense for my bill of materials, and as close as possible to a stamped set of something that I can sort of count on.
Sure.
And the issue is that requirements change quickly in this market, especially in terms of racking products. And so when we looked at it ourselves, often when customers talk about it, it takes the form, hey, why don't you build a racking configurator? But that's such a moving target.
Yeah.
And it's not efficient for us to be the ones doing it.
Sure.
So our philosophy is, the right way to do it is for us to do what we do really well, right? Let our customers get to a physical layout that's going to be a good approximation of the world, and then export to third parties like yourselves.
Sure.
So that as you have new products, I mean, here's the key, and this is something that customers don't think about themselves, but it benefits our mutual customers. When you all have a new product, that is something that you can roll out in base ASAP and have it in there, let's say, a month of development time.
Sure.
But you know what's critical is, you don't have to ask our permission, you don't have to ask for our resources, you don't have to fight the other priorities that our team has. That's the issue. It's the kind of thing where, could we build it ourselves? Hypothetically, we could. The problem is, it's never over.
Yeah.
Once you build it, you maintain it.
Yeah.
And the maintenance of it is the part that, again, all teams are small. And so the bottom line is that you can't scale up maintenance of everyone's products.
Yeah.
And so that would be the way that I think about it, is like, fundamentally, we're talking about a maintenance problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, like, frankly, I was talking to a lot of people that, like, we're learning a lot about maintenance of PV systems. I think there's a similar mindset of software products. All these products need maintenance. And so what you want to do is you want to have the right teams lined up to maintain the right products.
Yeah.
And therefore, you guys are the right team to maintain your product design rules.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, coming from the racking perspective on design, so it's like if you're working on a project and you've gone out, you've done some like pre-site visit work, you've measured the roof, you've measured obstructions, you have an idea of how many modules you can fit. For the most part, like when you're building that proposal and the cost model for that proposal, it's like cost per watt on modules, cost per watt on inverters. You have some BOS and wire cost and conduit to figure out. The big question mark is can the building handle this weight? Like we were talking about just commercial ballasted system, for example. It's like, what's the fire setback? Can we fit all these modules in the right area? And these are all things that actually come straight out of the racking company's design, right? So from our standpoint, I look at it and I'm like, okay, this basically helps the sales team to get a more accurate proposal faster back to the customer, even before you've even proposed it in the first place, right? So design done in HelioScope, goes back to the design team internally. They can import it real quick in our tool, run it through like our D-Dome or our new south face system, multi-row tilt, know that it's exactly going to fit that, know exactly what the ballast weight's going to be, and then if there is a change to the initial layout, because the initial layout from a proposal standpoint is just going to be like, okay, modules fit, right? Because you guys have specific parameters where you could put in like module spacing and things like that. I mean, you don't know how much ballast weight's going to be on there, right? And sometimes you run to structural and you're like, this is way too much weight for the roof, so we need to start adding attachments. These are some of the things that come up on a project where you sometimes propose something, maybe get a little ahead of yourself, and now you got to go back, do a change order. You have to go back to the customer and say, hey, it's going to be costing this much more money. We can't have this much ballast on your roof. We have to do some structural upgrades. You've just shot all your credibility with that customer at that point. So, can you talk to that a little bit in terms of like how that, how you guys can help in that area as well?
Totally. A couple thoughts come to mind as you were talking about that. First and foremost, it's funny. You don't hear that many people talking about getting to know, because we all want to talk about making projects work. But the flip side of making projects work is you want to learn all the bad stuff as early as you can.
Yeah.
Because if you need to, as you said, if you need to offload to a different racking design, if you're going to need to penetrate the roof, if you're going to need to have cost offset elsewhere, you either have a higher ticket item, or you're going to have a system that's not going to get built.
Yeah.
But everyone is better off, but especially the developer is better off if you can do that earlier. Because every week that goes by, our mutual customers are investing in that project.
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure that you're investing in the ones that are going to be real, right?
Yeah.
If there's something lurking, you want to know that as soon as possible. So that's a big part of it, is getting to these kinds of potentially fatal issues. They're not fatal, but curveballs as early as you can, so that you can front load all that pain.
Yeah, so something that I've been hearing a lot about in the SaaS world and software is how many times a customer has to like design something and push it to the next stage, design it, push it to the next stage, bring it back to that stage, redesign, repropose. And that goes all the way through permitting, right? So what are you guys doing in terms of trying to help customers go from proposal? Obviously we have our integration, which is great. You can get your quick design on your racking. What else are you guys doing to get through the final stages of the product or help the customer? Do you have anything on like your product backlog that's specifically addressing like completion of product or something?
Yeah, the way so in short, yes. And if anything, it goes back to the thing I was saying at the very beginning, which is we're now able, finally, to focus on our core C&I customer. And there's a long list of backlog items that will make HelioScope closer and closer to the real world, to as-built. The analogy that I would give, though, is it's going to be an asymptotic process. You know, there will always be a wrinkle that happens from time to time. So it's like 80-20 rule is the first step. There are, in practice, 10 to 20 features that are on our roadmap that we're now prioritizing, now able to prioritize, that are going to help us get closer to the real world. Things like, for example, as simple as what we call compound tilt, the idea that the underlying roof surface isn't always flat, right? Today and historically, HelioScope assumes a flat roof is flat, a pitched roof is pitched. Yeah. Well, my flat roof has a 3-degree pitch for drainage or whatever. Sure. You know? So stuff like that, that's coming, and that's an incredibly common request from our customers. Yeah. And then, you know, there's a ton of other things like that. Like I said, 10 to 20 that are really high impact. Sure. And then there's 200 that are there and that have non-zero demand. Yeah. And we're not going to get to 200. So really, it goes back to, if anything, we're going to do everything we can to get as far along as possible. And then it goes back to having all the right off-ramps to off-ramp to a partner for, if there's a partner product that makes sense. Yeah. Or off-ramp to AutoCAD if you need to do the final tune-up in AutoCAD. I mean, that's really the security blanket for all this stuff. Sure. You know, like it's a clunky security blanket, but that's the bottom line. Yeah. But it's about moving the line out for as you transition from the SaaS side to the AutoCAD side, right? Because that's when you slow it down. That's when suddenly you've got a much smaller set of people who can access it, edit it, etc. Sure. So it's a necessary part, and any project's going to have to get through that. But we're going to do our best to push that line backwards. Sure, yeah. I would only mention, and I don't know if you were aware, excuse me, we currently have a partnership with Greenlancer as well. So if we have a project, you have a customer that uses your platform to create the proposal, you can slide it over to our tool, we can create the racking design, we can even slide it over to SMA or Fronius for your inverter design, and then we can even pass it off to Greenlancer where they provide final permitting, engineering services, structural, electrical. So even in the interim, we've kind of found a way to like maneuver through those aspects while you guys are working on it. So that's great. I mean, if anything, the one thing I'd add to that is all of these integrations are generally speaking awesome. There's an example that I like to think about. So in the residential segment, there's a company called SREC Trade, and so in SREC markets, they provide a service of submitting your documentation to get paid for your recs. Cool company, solid company, like whatever. We've got an integration with them that is, by any technical standard, super basic. Yeah. They, for mutual customers, they have the ability to pull out the name and address of an account. That's it. 2 text fields. But for our customers, it is magical. They are elated that they can do it because, think about the person who's got to deal with that. The world before that, kind of like you were saying earlier, they have to retype the information that they know is somewhere else. They have to retype the name, retype the address. It slows them down, and it's a source of error. Sure. So every time you can automate these things, even for something that by any software engineering standard, they're just like kind of rolling their eyes. Like every time I talk about it to someone in the industry, they're like, can't you be a little bit more ambitious than that? But the reality is, if that's what users want, let's deliver that to them. Sure. And it truly makes them so genuinely happy. Like the ratio of I shouldn't say effort because it was mostly their effort on that integration, but I'm going to assume it wasn't that much effort, versus the amount of customer joy that it generated was wonderful, really wonderful. So kind of a different question. So obviously this is the first time we're back at RE Plus this year. Now used to be SPI, RE Plus. Feels really different, honestly. Feels like everyone's been waiting for this show. It also is like the industry's grown 3 years since the last time we did a show, so it just seems like there's a lot of investment dollars. This industry is much bigger than it was pre-COVID. How did COVID kind of impact your organization in terms of how you guys developed new products? What impact did it have on the people at HelioScope?
as well as like how you approach product development. Because I can tell you from our standpoint, our sales guys in general were not able to like get out and meet with customers. And we spent a tremendous amount of time like in internal meetings with product development, actually sharing customer feedback over the phone, and like we're actually at the show today and we have a tremendous amount of new products, honestly, in some part because our sales guys spend so much time hanging out with product development because they couldn't talk to customers. It's like, do you have any kind of like experience? What was like the unique experience that you guys kind of had kind of working and living through COVID the last 3 years?
That's interesting to hear. So speaking for us on the HelioScope side, we didn't have that experience only because historically, up until recently, we didn't have a sales team. And so it was just a different cadence for us.
Yeah.
And so what we saw though was an acceleration of demand because pre-COVID, design software was, most people used it, but it was sort of like a growing trend.
Yeah.
After COVID, it was the only way to sell. And the ability to the core stack of a solar developer was, email, Zoom, and HelioScope.
Yeah.
Right? Like and others, but like
sure. No, absolutely.
Set up a meeting, run them through what you're gonna do and and what it's gonna look like in cost.
Yeah.
And so so for us there was a ton of pulling forward demand in terms of software tools to support remote design.
Cool.
Remote sales, basically.
Sure. Yeah.
And then for us, I think it was a lot of just like transitioning to full remote. Because I think given that we were a software company based in the Bay Area, we right away just switched to full remote.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it was just really focusing on making sure that the team feels like a team.
Yeah.
Because it's just hard to feel connected when you're just seeing everyone on Zoom.
Yeah, it's exciting to be back. Anything on the horizon for you guys in terms of like a CRM or ERP type of functionality within your tool? Is that anything you guys are looking at?
Not right now. As I said, the priority is on the stuff that our core users want. Mm-hmm. But if anything there, it comes down to, what I would say to that is, instead of CRM capabilities, there is a skill set that Aurora has on the residential side of the house of really well done APIs with great documentation, great support by a team that really knows what they're doing on how to support Salesforce integrations, support whatever. I mean, it's mostly Salesforce, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're doing on the HelioScope side, is pulling a lot of that expertise over to HelioScope, because honestly, it's similar to how we talked about us working together.
Sure.
Probably not going to be the future of us becoming world-class at CRM. The future is going to be us partnering with the Salesforces of the world. Frankly, there are even some solar-specific CRM tools that use our API as well.
Yeah.
Same exact philosophy.
Sure.
And so, at some point, might we deliver it for a segment of our customers? Perhaps. But I'd say our largest customers honestly don't want CRM from us. What they want from us is be best in class at what we do,
yeah,
and then flow seamlessly into Salesforce or something that's equivalent to that.
Sure.
But to make that happen, that's unique to every single customer. I think, again, if anything, what I would say is, from a product point of view, from like a product thought, we thought we would do this. And years back, we started an initiative to gather feedback, and what we learned was, we spoke to 10 customers, 10 sophisticated customers.
Yeah.
The requirements were different, completely different for every single one. And we were just like, our learning was, this is not the game that we thought it was.
Yeah. I mean, speaking from our standpoint, I would never want to get into the CRM space either. We have a hard enough time getting our own sales guys to use CRMs. But last question. So being this first show in 3 years, like, what are you excited to see here? Is there anything in particular, like, you're actually very stoked to come to Anaheim, RE Plus, and experience for the first time?
So honestly, the first answer is just like wandering around for the serendipity of the things that I wasn't aware of. Like that's like, in the world of remote, you read the news and then you Google the stuff that you know what to Google for.
Yeah.
You know, but like this is a place to just wander and stumble upon something that you just didn't even know existed.
Sure.
So that's a big piece of it. You know, there's a lot of honestly a lot of new startups. So I'm excited. Like a chunk of my time is just spending time with a bunch of like cool startups doing cool new software projects and things like that.
Awesome.
And then getting smarter on storage. But you know, everyone's doing that, right?
Yeah.
It's obviously, you know, growing like gangbusters, and so that's also on the roadmap for us. So it's a great chance to get down the learning curve, find out what the state of the art is. You know, who's moving and shaking in that part of the industry.
Excellent. Well, Paul, thanks for stopping by. GM HelioScope. Thanks for stopping by our Speakers Corner. It's great to meet you for the first time, and enjoy the show. Appreciate your
Likewise.
time.
Great to chat with you.
Good to meet you. Yeah, thanks.